Welcome to Genuine University's webinar on simply have more fun. So I'd like to start out with a fairly bold statement about fun, and that is that fun just may be the single most important factor in the progress of the human race. So that's a pretty full-on statement to make, and I believe I can back that up in the next hour and a half during this webinar. So it's also a bit of a serious statement to make about fun. I mean, you're probably expecting just to turn up to this webinar and have loads of fun, and there will be some fun in it, but fun is also fairly serious. I believe it's a very, very important thing, which doesn't mean it's not enjoyable, but it just means that I think that it should be taken a lot more seriously, or rather than say seriously, it should be given a lot more weight and a lot more importance attributed to it. So, just to get straight into it, I'd like to talk about what happens when you don't have fun. So I've got the results of no fun. Let's say that you just have no fun in your life at all, then what's likely to occur is that you'll end up with some form of depression. Because depression is basically a result of suppressing something within you. And when you don't have fun, which is simply expressing something within you, then depression is the ultimate result. Also, if you don't have fun, you will tend to have anxiety of some sort. You tend to get really kind of nervous and shaky and so on, and it tends to wear on your nerves. And when you actually have fun, it's a great stress reliever, because when you don't have fun, you tend to get stressed. If you don't have any fun in your life at all and life is just simply a drudgery, then obviously you're going to get stressed. I feel that that is a fairly self-explanatory statement. And if you don't have fun, with depression, anxiety and stress, you'll end up with some form of illness. And if you're depressed, anxious, stressed out, unwell, then your chance of having good relationships is not very good, so you'll end up with poor relationships. So not having fun does all these terrible things to you. So I hope that the importance of fun is starting to build in your mind as a result of hearing just these few things. And if you don't have fun, you also tend to have a lack of focus. When I work with clients, I find that if they can't focus, if they can't concentrate, I ask them what they've been doing to enjoy themselves, and usually the answer is, I can't remember. And the reason they can't remember is because they haven't been doing anything, or not very much at all. Or they may have just been watching TV and think that that's actually fun. But that's a particular type of fun, but it doesn't address the lack of focus issue. And we'll go into the different types of fun a little bit later on. And also, if you don't have fun, then generally what you'll end up with is some form of addiction. And I've got a photo there of somebody snorting some sort of powder that's spelling out the word Facebook. So I'm poking a bit of fun at the whole idea of an addiction, and that Facebook is an addiction. But Facebook can be a lot of fun as well. And social media can be lots of fun. But if you can't live without it, if you can't get by without it, and you start to get depression, anxiety and stress as a result of not using social media and other things, then you're probably not having fun. A lot of people think that their addictions are actually fun, but they're not fun at all. They're just really covering something up. So I put that point in there with the woman snorting the Facebook words and so on, kind of as a bit of a joke, but also as one of those jokes that has a serious point to it. If you take something that is fun and it becomes something that is compulsive, then you are not going to be enjoying it. It's just how it works, because it is a reaction to something else. A depression, a stress, or an anxiety. So what you might think is fun is actually simply a diversion or an avoidance. And we'll go into diversion and so on later. We've got different levels of how to categorize fun and so on. And I'm going to shake up your definition of fun primarily to support that bold statement that I made at the beginning. Because I'm going to twist the language a little bit and go back to the origin of the word fun a little bit later on. Just to demonstrate what fun is really about and where it really comes from, the real core of it. If you've been on webinars with me before, then you'll know that I like to get into the real root of how things come about and what is the root cause of things. Okay, so we'll move past the whole thing about not having fun and the causes and the side effects of not having fun, and go straight into the benefits of having fun. So if you're having fun, you get an endorphin boost. And I mean, don't we love that? We do something that's really enjoyable and we just feel good. It's like we get our own hit of drugs, which is manufactured by our own body. And the great thing about drugs that are manufactured by our own body is that almost all the time they're manufactured in safe levels. Adrenaline is one that isn't always manufactured in safe levels, and certainly with gambling addiction and so on, that adrenaline we get an external stimulus to make us overproduce that. But generally when we have fun, the drug hit that we get is a beautiful one, and it's appropriate, and it's in a good dose, and it's like it's counterbalanced with all these other systems within our body. Another benefit of having fun is simply stress reduction. And a lot of these points that I'm going to make, a lot of them cross over and have a lot of commonality to them. You might think that an endorphin boost is actually stress reduction, but it's just an invitation to have a stress reduction. An endorphin boost is something that enables you to relax and enjoy yourself and actually just reorder your body chemistry, whereas stress reduction comes about through releasing attention in a certain area. And that may or may not come with an endorphin boost. Another benefit of fun is that it produces or promotes human growth hormone. Now, human growth hormone is obviously the thing that repairs parts of our body and so on, and also enables us to build muscle and the like. And fun in and of itself doesn't actually force human growth hormone to be produced. The main things that will bring that about are getting your melatonin in order, which is basically if you get early morning sunlight and then get very low light before going to bed, then what happens is you produce melatonin during the day, and then at night it's released. And then that brings about the production of HGH, or human growth hormone. Another thing that does tend to encourage human growth hormone to be produced is doing exercise that you really enjoy. So if you're doing exercise that you really enjoy, then you tend to actually get a whole lot of stress reduction and the endorphins and so on, and then the HGH, or the human growth hormone, comes out and helps rebuild your body a whole lot more. If you're doing exercise that you really hate and it feels like drudgery, not only do you not get that HGH, or the human growth hormone boost, but there's a very much higher chance of getting an injury. Another benefit of fun is that it creates health, and a lot of that does actually come from HGH. And when you're de-stressed, in other words, not stressed, then you have the opportunity to actually rebuild your body a whole lot more positively, basically because you're not in the fight or flight syndrome. And when we're not having fun, when we're stressed out, when we've got a whole lot of anxiety and depression and so on, generally we're in survival mode and not enjoying life. And when we're in survival mode, then what tends to happen is that, our muscles get most of the blood, the upper parts of our brain, the creative parts of our brain don't get enough blood and so on, and we just try to do things which enable us to get by for the next short period of time. It might be the next 10 seconds or the next minute, or if I can just get through this day, that sort of thing. Also, if you're having fun, it tends to improve relationships. One great thing about relationships also is they give you opportunity for fun, and they also give you opportunities for endorphin boosts and stress reduction and so on. I mean, just simply having a hug can be a lot of fun, can be very enjoyable. And I mean, obviously in a relationship, in an intimate relationship, then there are other opportunities for fun as well, of a much more intimate variety. But then if it's just a friend relationship, then, joking around or having a shared activity or something, or having communication and conversation can also help you relax and actually improves your health, and then your health improves your relationships, and it starts to create this really beneficial cycle, which is extremely helpful, as opposed to a vicious cycle that tends to come about when you're not having fun. Having fun also creates focus, because in order to have fun, you really do need to be focused on something. You need to be in the moment. It's very, very difficult to have fun without being focused and without being present. And that also brings about an improvement in brain function. Your brain just works a whole lot better. If you've got the endorphin boost, your stress is down, you've got HGH in your system, you're feeling healthy, you're getting along with people, then your brain can relax and it can start, the blood can start flowing to the upper part of the brain, the corpus callosum, which is a whole lot more creative than the other parts of the brain. And that enables you to have all sorts of fantasies, dreams, and so on, and simply to enjoy that creative process. And fun also relaxes you. I mean, I don't know if you've had this experience, but I certainly know that I've had experiences where I might have various types of fun, and we'll talk about the types of fun later, and the various types of fun actually end up bringing about a situation where I feel a whole lot more calm than I might have before, even if the fun was very, very engaging and almost frenetic. I know a lot of people that find driving relaxing, even if the driving is going around corners fast and that sort of thing. They find it's simply the focus of not actually thinking about 5 million other things that tends to relax them. And so that's an aspect of fun, is that you're focused. Now, going a bit further with fun and the benefits of it, it's also a benefit but also a characteristic of fun, and that is that fun expands you. It makes you feel bigger than you were before. And that's because fun is primarily had in the heart. I mean, we can have mental fun and so on, but when we're having fun, it is just one of those glorious aspects of it, that the enjoyable part of it is that you're bigger than yourself and you almost forget yourself, but it also makes you bigger than you were before. It enables you to learn things and enables you, with your brain functioning a whole lot better. When you're having fun, then you're able to become more than you were before. And as I mentioned before, fun makes you present. You can't really have fun without being in the moment. And a lot of the times when I work with sports people who want to improve their game, whatever game they might be playing, one of the things that we work on is how much they enjoy the game they're playing, because if they're present with the enjoyment of the game, then they're present with what they're trying to accomplish within the game. And that tends to bring them into the zone, if you know what that means. Athletes have this thing that they call the zone, where they feel like they can't do anything wrong, and they do everything right, and they almost seem to know what is about to happen next and how to respond, for want of a better word, to what is about to happen. And so it's almost like they're prescient, like they're seeing the future, because they are so omnipresent about what is going on in the moment. And that tends to come about, that is both a consequence and a result of having fun with what you're doing. And a lot of sports people report that, they do it for the love of the game, but there's also, there's a good reason to focus on winning, because that helps you become more present and it gives you a goal. And then it's the presence which is actually the greatest thing that they enjoy. I've asked a lot of sports people when they've been in the zone, get them to recall, when you've been in the zone, do you think that you could possibly get injured whilst you're in the zone? And the answer is always no. The answer doesn't come quickly ever. They tend to lean back and look up in the air, up in the sky, or wherever we may be, up the ceiling or something, and ponder it for a moment, and then they realize that as soon as they're not present, as soon as they're not in the zone, that's when injuries can happen. And then if I ask them, when you have had an injury, can you recall at that moment what was actually going on in your head? And usually there's some form of self-torture that's going on. They're giving themselves a hard time. They're criticizing themselves because of what they did 5 seconds ago in the game. They're criticizing themselves because they weren't as fast on that track as they were the previous day. Well, they're basically giving themselves a hard time. And one of the most important aspects of fun, and I haven't mentioned it here, is that fun is about, there's about a certain let go. It's almost like you let go of yourself in order to have fun. And that let go enables you to let go of all the thoughts and things which may distract you. And you're also letting go of a whole lot of other points of focus which could distract you or split focus. And then when you become present, that's when you actually start to have incredible fun. Now, when you're actually having fun, it tends to create confidence. Because, you know, if you're not confident in the idea that, you know, you can enjoy yourself, then how are you going to have fun? A lot of us may have found ourselves at parties, for instance, where maybe we don't know that many people. And sometimes we may even leave those parties because it's too confronting. But if we just kind of let go and allow ourselves to enjoy ourselves, then we might meet people and suddenly we start to get more confident in the group and so on, and then things start to work for us. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we expect to have fun, then we tend to have fun and we tend to get the benefits of fun. Fun also creates connection. And when I say connection, I didn't say necessarily connection with others, because connection with yourself is as important, if not more important, than connection with others. And one of the limitations that people have on the concept of fun is that they think that fun has to be had with other people. I know, like years ago, I wrote a whole lot of murder mystery party games, and you know, people that were working in my office or just outside my office would often come in and go, "What are you laughing about?" And I'd just be sitting in there laughing all to myself, writing these things and having a great time, and then I'd just say, get out, I'll tell you later." And then they'd hear more laughing, and then I'd come out and maybe go to the bathroom or the kitchen or something and be chuckling away, and then they'd think that because I'm out of the office that they can ask me what I'm doing and all of that, and I'd still be in the zone, but I wouldn't want to tell them. So, you know, that's an example of having fun on your own. And sometimes things are more fun, like the people that love driving because they find it a lot of fun. Very frequently, they love to do that on their own. And that creates a focus and it creates a connection within yourself. So I'm labouring this point a little bit because I just want to get past the preconception that fun has to engage other people. It doesn't. And I'm not saying it shouldn't engage other people. I'm just focusing on this one because of that preconception that it should engage other people. But most importantly, one of the main benefits of fun is that it makes you happy. And you can have fun in virtually any situation. I remember at one point I'd been working about 18 hours a day for 10 to 12 days in a row with a group of other people. And, you know, we're all getting a bit stressed out. And then somebody told some really ridiculous joke. I can't even remember what it was. It was just silly. It wasn't even that funny. And we all started laughing and just could not stop laughing for about half an hour. And, you know, it just made us happy because we were having a stress release. Okay. So let's get into the reasons why we don't have more fun. We don't have more fun mainly because we are led to believe certain things. One thing that we're led to believe is that life is meant to be hard. And this comes from all sorts of places. This comes from employers who think that, you know, you should not enjoy your job, and that if you're enjoying your job, then you're probably not working properly. I may have told this story in previous webinars where I was in a sales position, and my first day actually in this sales position, I managed to bring in income, which was about 20% more than the best salesperson had done on a regular basis. And the manager comes to me and says, you know, "Oh, wow, how did you do that?" And I said, "Oh, I just had fun." And he turns around and says to me, "Oh, no, you're not meant to have fun." And you can imagine I didn't last very long in that job, because if I was working in a business context with people and they weren't happy to see me, then my success level becomes a whole lot less. And so I always made sure that these people were happy to see me for one reason or another. whether it was because I was being entertaining or just, bringing a bit of sunshine into their day and so on. And that's basically how I did well. And that there's also another aspect to selling, which I'll talk about in other webinars, which is that if you really care about other people, then you do a whole lot better. And having fun with them is a very big part of that. Being able to connect with them, because, as I said before, fun creates connection. Another reason that we don't have more fun is because we're led to believe that fun is silly. And now, that is true to an extent, but to think that fun is only silly is not correct. Fun can be silly, of course. I mean, that's part of the fun of it, that it's silly. But when I say that, we're led to believe fun is silly, what I'm really getting at is the idea that we're led to believe that fun is just not very important, that it doesn't really mean anything, that it's useless or has no value. We're also led to believe that fun is for the immature. I remember once in a workplace that I really enjoyed working at, my boss and I got on really well. And a friend of mine who was a bit younger than me was still in school and came to do some work experience in this workplace. It was like a natural health centre. And we had to write a letter about his performance on work experience and so on. So apparently we were supposed to post it into the school. But what we did was we wrote a fake letter which had all sorts of jokes about, how he would make sure that he was talking to all the pretty girls all the time and all that sort of stuff. And then gave it to him and forgot to seal it. Meanwhile, we sent off a shining kind of testimonial of this guy because he was so impressive. In reality, we sent this off to the school, and so, of course, on the way home after getting this letter, he couldn't help himself. He read it, and had a bit of a heart attack. He told us, and then called us and said, "Is this for real?" And we said, "No, of course it's not." And then we read out, our copy of what we actually had said. The only criticism that we had of him was that he took it all too seriously. That he could enjoy himself in the workplace a little bit more. And I guess he had a little bit too much of the Protestant work ethic. And for those of you who don't know what the Protestant work ethic is, I won't go into too much detail, but basically it's the idea that you should be stern and work hard. And we certainly have a lot of that in our society. And I mean, the different religions have also educated us that we need to suffer in order to get rewards later in heaven. And I don't actually subscribe to that. So if you're listening to my webinars, you won't hear me supporting that idea. I'm much more in line with Milton, who says that we can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven, and I certainly want to help make a heaven here. And so that's why I'm running a webinar called Have More Fun. But also I have a more important reason for running this webinar, and we'll get into that later, because fun is far more far-reaching than people may realize, and I want to get that across. When I was putting together this webinar, I did some research on the internet. We're kind of looking at different levels of fun and so on, and see what other people had written and so on about what the different levels are in the spectrum and so on. And I really didn't find anything. I found a few paragraphs which kind of alluded to the idea that there might be different levels and different forms of fun and so on. So in this webinar, what I'm really wanting to do is bring you closer to the idea that you're probably already having more fun than you think. Because you may be doing things which are fun, but you've got a belief system which is stopping you appreciating them as fun, and thus they're a whole lot less enjoyable for you and probably less fun. You might even be doing something you love doing with an attitude of suffering toward it. And I'd like to take that attitude of suffering away from you if you would like. If you want to keep it, then you're more than welcome to. Okay, we're also led to believe that fun is just a pastime. Fun is something we do to pass time or to waste time. And a lot of games and so on are called pastimes. I mean, there were societies in the Middle East thousands of years ago who got through famines by teaching their people to have fun. They would effectively reduce their food intake and distract them with games and competitions and so on. And as a result, they were less depressed, they were less stressed, they didn't have as much anxiety because they were distracted. And in actual fact, I mean, it's, there's a lot of evidence to show that the human organism does thrive a whole lot more on less food, provided that we're not stressing out about the fact that we've got less food. So, these pastimes were developed to basically save ancient societies. So the idea that, it's just a pastime and it has no real use, I think that's really been shown to be not incredibly valid. We're also led to, we don't have more fun as well because we're led to believe that fun is a reward. And the reward is like, if you go and engage in this suffering, then you can go and have some fun. One of the most tragic things that I ever saw, I was in a shopping centre and I was near a kid's play area in the shopping centre. And this obviously stressed out mother, I'm not sure what was going on in her life, it was obviously something pretty full on, walked past the play area and her little boy decided, that he was going to go and play on the slide. And so he managed to climb up the stairs of the slide, and then she went and grabbed him and said, "That's it, I'll let you go on the slide, now we're going." And like the kid didn't even get to slide down the slide. And I mean, parenting is a pretty tough job, I know it myself. And, when we're stressed out and anxious and so on, and our ability to have fun is really, really compromised. And if we see fun simply as a reward, then we reduce the amount of fun that we can have because we think that we have to earn fun. And I want to suggest to you that another belief system might be more helpful, which is that fun is simply a right that you have. You have a right to it because it is very, very healthy for you to have fun, as we've seen from the various benefits of having fun. We're also led to believe that fun means not taking life seriously. That if you're having fun, then you're basically some sort of fool. And if you look at the origin of the word fun, then that's actually pretty right. It actually comes from befool. And so I'm not sure how they made that leap, but it's Old English around 1600s. And it means be fool. So in other words, you are being a fool. Now in our modern language, fool means something pretty bad. But back in those times, fool didn't mean something so bad. It's, we kind of have a bit of an understanding of what the word fool actually means if we say somebody's being the fool. And often, we'll say somebody's being the fool when they're having a go at someone, or winding people up, or stirring people and so on, or pretending to be, a little bit sillier than they really are, a little bit dim or something. I remember once I was at a friend's place, and his son was playing with a jack-in-the-box on the floor, and then another mutual friend of ours came over, and my friend's son was showing this other friend what the jack-in-the-box actually was. And so this other friend of ours was asking him, "Oh, what is it? What does it do?" and so on. And I said, "Oh, well, you wind it around and the thing pops out." Like she actually was asking the question for real. But what she was actually doing was being the fool so that, our friend's son could engage with her and connect with her and tell her about this toy that he was enjoying. But then, of course, I was actually the fool because I kind of missed out on what she was getting at. So fun means not taking life seriously, but I think what we're getting at here is that we're led to believe that fun means not treating things that should be important as being important and instead going off and being irresponsible. Whereas when we are being a fool, there's an attitude of wanting to discover something and learn something. and to be open and have a sense of wonder. And I mean, even like the wisest of kings had the fool, in their court, because the fool's job was, not only to entertain and so on, but also to say the things that people weren't allowed to say because of decorum and because of manners and so on. And so the fool would be the one who would say, the emperor's new clothes aren't actually there, like the story of the emperor's new clothes, where the children point out that the emperor's been taken for a fool, or been taken advantage of. So the fool is the one who gets to break the rules. And often the wisest things have actually come from fools. And so basically, when we are led to believe that fun means not taking life seriously, perhaps it can also mean choosing actively what should and should not be taken seriously. And that's what I'd like to put to you as an alternative belief system about what fun actually is. Okay. We also are led to believe that people who play games are wastrels. The idea that people who engage in all sorts of pastimes and so on are just wasting time. I mean, certainly in British culture and to some extent in Australian culture this is the case. In American culture it's not the case so much, depending upon the game, because some of their games are taken very, very seriously, as though people's lives depended upon it. And they don't, but it's taken that seriously. But there are a whole lot of benefits to playing games, and I'll talk a little bit about games. Not only because I've done a lot of game design myself, but because I've learned a lot about people through playing games. And I mean, if you want to, they say, I saw a cartoon or a photo with a caption on it from Will Ferrell, who said, if you want to really get to know someone, spend a week with them with a slow internet connection. And then they'll reveal themselves, which is like, there's an ancient saying, which is that people reveal themselves best when they play games. And certainly I think that, let's say that a friend of mine was considering marrying somebody, I would try and get this potential partner to play some sort of game, like a board game or a ball game or something like that, and just let the person reveal themselves, because sometimes that's been quite advantageous for my friend and also for myself at times. So I'll talk a little bit about games and the benefits of playing games. I'm deliberately not going to go into games too much, because I have a very large amount of knowledge on games, and this is just about fun, and games is a subset of fun. It's not everything. Okay. So gamers are not the lazy male shut-ins we've been led to believe that they are, because we think of people who play computer games and so on as being, loners who don't have any friends and don't know how to connect with other people, and they're doing it because their life is empty. When in actual fact, 35% of non-gamers agree with this statement. My friends are the most important thing in my life. So the people that don't see themselves as gamers, 35% of those agree that their friends are the most important thing in their life. They just agree with that statement. Whereas 50% of people who see themselves as gamers agree with this statement. So gamers are more likely to declare their friends as being really important. And if we look at the idea that we reveal ourselves through how we play games, then the idea that you can become friends with somebody through playing a game is quite valid. Whereas you might see people engaging in a game and maybe not even talking to each other, but there's a communication that is going on there. Also, they're not lazy. They're not people that are, just simply wasting their time. We can see that 39% of non-gamers have full-time employment, whereas 42% of gamers have full-time employment. So if we want to look at, our gamers being people that just waste their lives and sit at home doing, something that's not worthwhile all day, the actual fact is that a higher percentage of gamers have full-time employment. And I just want to go down the gaming track a little bit. Also, we'll just finish off with the stats here. People think that all gamers are actually men, whereas 48% of gamers are female. 10 years ago, that figure was 40%. But game designers have been deliberately pitching games more directly to engage women, giving them a more social aspect. And certainly with the advent of internet technology, being able to transfer data packets and so on to enable massive online games to actually become a reality, there's a whole lot more social interaction there, and so women are being attracted to it more. If you want to look that up, I've just included the URL at the bottom there, if you want to grab that. So, also, I want to make a point here, which leads to my statement about fun being very important to the progress of the human race, and that is that when they were trying to get a cure for AIDS, and I know that we don't necessarily have a cure, but we have very effective treatments, and it's no longer the epidemic that we once feared. When they were trying to get to that stage, they had a problem with modeling molecules in a 3D environment. So basically, in order to create the right treatment, what they needed to do was get a computer model which enabled theoretical interaction of different chemicals in a three-dimensional environment. And it was incredibly challenging for them to do that. And they worked out that if they employed all of the resources that they had, it would take between 8 and 9 years to get the modeling right. Not to get a cure or a treatment, just to get the modeling right to enable them to do the research in a theoretical sense. So the way they do it is they do the theoretical research first and get a theoretical result, and then if they get a good result theoretically, then they'll test it in the real world. And that saves a whole lot of effort and trial and error. But in this situation, they couldn't get the 3D modeling to occur. And one of the people who was trying to get the 3D modeling to be efficient was actually a gamer, and suggested to his community that gamers should be allowed to tackle this problem. And he reckoned that if gamers were able to have a go at it, that they could probably get a result within 3 years. I'll mention a few threes here. When he put it to the gaming community, they said, no, we'll get it in 3 months. And he thought it was a whole lot of braggadocio, so them just being brash and saying, oh yeah, I'm so good, I can get this result, I can work out this computer modeling problem. And the person who said that they could get it within 3 months was actually wrong, because they got the result, they got the solution within 3 weeks. And I always remember that as a brilliant example of the gamer's mind, which can solve complex problems in multi-dimensional space with all different facets, is far more capable at problem solving than the person who doesn't play games. And with interactive games, there's also a greater tendency for cooperation and the sum of the parts being greater than the whole. And I'll go into this a little bit more later on, because I have a bit of a wacky idea about where this proliferation of games and social media is actually leading us as a species. And I have no evidence for it, but I'm going to put to you where I think it might be going. But we'll just get back into a little bit of reality here. Okay, so why don't we have more fun? We don't understand the real importance of fun, and it gets relegated to the bottom of the pile too frequently. I'm not saying that fun should be the most important thing in your life. Well, in some respects I am saying that, but the kind of fun which we normally identify as being the only type of fun, which is like this being silly and irresponsible type fun, I don't think that should be the most important necessarily, but I think it's very important. But we think that fun has to be put off, and because we need to earn it, it goes to the bottom of our priority list. And then what happens is that we end up living to a set of values that somebody else has told us that we should have. We don't get to decide what is actually important to us by feeling into what works for us and what doesn't work for us, we have a set of rules, and fun generally is at the bottom of that, because somebody else's idea of what's important is more important and so on, and their idea of what might be important is controlling us, or whatever the case may be. When we're having fun, we don't get to feel overly important. We go beyond ourselves. And this is a bit of a double-edged sword, because when we don't get to have fun, we sometimes substitute that lack of fun and enjoyment for a sense of power. So we get to have power over others, or whatever the situation might be, or an exorbitant amount of control, and then we get caught in our ego. And I'm not here to bash the ego or anything, but we need to kind of let ourselves have some ego, and also sometimes go beyond that in order to expand, because the ego is limited. And it's great that it's limited, and I'll go into that in later webinars. But when we are not having fun and we get to feel important, then we are identified with that sense of power instead of actually who we really are. And sometimes it's nice to have power, like the people who love driving, there's a sense of power over this machine and so on, and that can be fun. But when we substitute one for the other rather than having both, then there's a bit of a problem there, and we tend to get stuck. Fun is often not productive, or at least not productive in a way that is obvious at first. And that's what I'm going to go into with the gaming and the social media type stuff that's going on in the world today, that I feel that these things are going to be productive. We just don't know how just yet. Otherwise, I don't feel that we would be engaging in it as a race. Fun also frequently costs money. And so to people who are measuring the value of things without bringing the idea of what's enjoyable into the mix, those people, when they measure that value, they usually will measure it in control and power. And usually it's control over those people that want to have fun and so on. And this is like an age-old thing. Okay, so I want to offer you a new definition of fun. And this definition of fun, I've really got two here. The first one is quite long-winded, but I think it's quite comprehensive. And here it is. Fun is any activity, passive or active, that promotes being in the moment, a sense of freedom, expression or enjoyment of something aligned with one's values, and sense of self, that generates an improved sense of connection with oneself and others that may or may not produce a measurable outcome. Right, so I did say it was long-winded. It's the sort of thing you might read in a legal textbook or something. But I'd like to break it up and go through it, if that's okay. Well, I guess it is okay, since I cannot see any of you at the moment. So fun is any activity, passive or active, right? So the idea that fun has to be like going, crazy, crazy, jumping around like a maniac. Fun can be quite passive. You can have great fun. I mean, isn't it fun to receive a massage, for instance? It's very passive. So any activity, passive or active, that promotes being in the moment, because remember before we talked about that presence is part of fun. Being present in the moment is part of having fun. Fun also gives you a sense of freedom, because you are expanding yourself and you get to express yourself without necessarily the logical limitations about what should be important. Fun is also about expression or enjoyment of something aligned with one's values. So if something is important to you, then you get to engage in doing that thing or that activity, or acquiring a certain object, or whatever the case may be. So it's something that, passive or active, makes you present, gives you a sense of freedom, expresses your enjoyment aligned with what's important to you, and enables you to connect with yourself and others. And it might or might not be measurable. Yeah, so it could be measurable. Maybe, you get hooked up to a biofeedback machine and, they can say, oh, wow, you're having fun because this part of your brain is stimulated. Yeah, but maybe there's other parts of it that you can't measure. And so here's the simple definition that I'd like to offer you. Fun expands and connects you. So it makes you bigger than before, and it also connects you. And I didn't say connects you to others or to yourself, because it's really both. I'm just covering both there. So I want to give you a new definition of fun, and that's the one. It expands and connects you. But I also want to give you some more points of difference or distinctions. There are many different styles, types, and levels of fun. So there's introverted fun and there's extroverted fun. And I mean, there's introverted, I gave you the example of when I talked about when I was writing murder mysteries, and I was having a whole lot of fun all by myself. And I mean, there were times when I wrote those things in conjunction with other people, but, a lot of the time it was on my own. Some things you just want to do by yourself. It doesn't, and I think I've laboured this point enough already, but some things are just better done on your own, like a bath, or maybe with someone, like a bath. There are two different ways of having a bath. It's an introverted and extroverted way of having a bath. There are also passive and active ways of having fun. And I mentioned massage before. I mean, we seem to be addicted. We're a bit of an extroverted culture a lot of the time in the Western world, and we seem to be addicted to the idea that we have to be engaging with other people in a really physically demonstrative way in order to have fun. And you don't necessarily need to. You can be listening to music, just sitting there completely silent. One of the most enjoyable things that I ever did was I don't remember the name of this device, but I only got to do this once. Basically, you lie on this waterbed, which has a huge speaker underneath it, as big as the bed, and then you put on this kind of mask thing, this headphones and a mask, and there are these flashing lights that kind of flash in front of your eyes, but you close your eyes and then you listen to music, and the music comes through the bed, through the water in the bed, and vibrates your body, and then the flashing lights kind of flash in sequence with whatever music happens to be played, and then you have these super high quality headphones that you're hearing it through your ears and so on. And I mean, that was incredibly passive. I laid there totally still, and it was one of the most enjoyable experiences of my life. I wish I could remember the name of the device. I think that it was a friend of a friend who just invented it, and I don't know that he'd given it a name. Maybe that's why I can't remember it. So, and anyway, it got shipped off somewhere, so he sold it to someone, which is a shame because I would have liked to have bought it myself. Anyway, so that was a very passive way of having fun. And then we're all familiar with the active ways, like going out and playing sports and playing games and so on, dancing and, having sexual interaction, whatever that might be. There's also safe ways of having fun and risky ways of having fun. I mean, if you go on a roller coaster, you're probably quite safe on most roller coasters these days, but there's a perception of risk. But then there's the type of fun that you want to have where there is actual risk. You could actually be injured or die, and so on. I remember once going up in a balloon, and that was fun to a degree. I think the thing I most enjoyed about it was that a balloon seemed to be a big invitation to every dog in the city to start barking, because we're up at like 5:30 in the morning. I can imagine, we're not making any noise directly, but we're making a whole lot of noise indirectly. Anyway, that was something that was kind of risky to me, because I'm not very comfortable being up really high. Most of the time, it's just part of my psychology, and so I'll often do things to go up high, just to confront those fears and so on, but also because it's fun to take a risk. And I mean, there are certain things that I've done risk-wise, like that involve going into the wilderness and so on for long periods of time by myself with really not that many resources and so on, and just surviving like that. It's very nice and risky. But then there's, like the safe fun as well, like where you're kind of sitting in the movie theater watching an adventure movie or a whole lot of battles, and you kind of have these fantasies about, if I was in that battle, I might do this or that. But you're completely safe in this like super cushy cinema chair and so on. So that's like a nice little mix of safe and risky fun, because imaginatively you're having risky fun, but physically you're having safe fun. So there's all sorts of different types of different degrees of safe fun and risky fun. And I know, like in my early 20s, I had a motorbike and I had a lot of risky fun at that time. There's also, as I've kind of come across, as I've mentioned before, solitary and social fun. And I think I've mentioned that a little bit. I kind of have aligned those with introverted and extroverted, but the fact is there is a difference there. You can have introverted fun amongst people. You can be within yourself around people, and that I wouldn't necessarily call that solitary. It's more like social introverted fun. And you can have solitary extroverted fun. So for me, I'm not actually by myself, but compared to how many people I normally speak to, I'm comparatively by myself doing this presentation, but I'm being extroverted whilst I'm doing it, because I'm putting this information out there. And an old client who's become a good friend of mine texted me today saying he's been listening to the recordings of the webinar and told me that, what was it he said? I'm surprised, you sound sexy on webinars. What happened is his question. This guy's a bit of a clown, or a bit of a fool, as we've kind of redefined fool. And I said, I've always been sexy, you just haven't been able to admit it to yourself. So the webinars are both solitary and extroverted. So, there's just a bit of fun there. Fun can also be intimate and confronting. You can have confronting fun. You can be in let's say, an intimate situation with somebody and be a little bit scared because the intimacy is a little bit confronting for you. And that can be exciting as well, so it's there's like a nice mix of all different types of fun there. And fun can also be adventurous and dramatic. And by adventure, I mean when you're actually choosing to do something which is maybe a little risky and so on, and you want to achieve something. And by dramatic, I mean something where you don't know that you've actually chosen to be involved. And maybe you might be having a drama or something like that, but on some level you're actually enjoying it. And I mean, I think we all have that at some point. Okay, so going further with a new definition of fun, I want to be really clear that what is right for you is often not right for others. And so we see a picture of a guy there snorting Coke. And it says you're doing it wrong. And so for those of you who are just listening to an audio recording, has fizzed it up and basically got a Coke, sorry, it's Coca-Cola, and is fizzing it into his nose. Yeah, so you might enjoy doing something that others simply don't. And it's all about values. So the way to have fun is to do things that are within your values, to do things that are important to you. So, one of my values is I love writing. And so writing is extremely fun for me. Whereas for a lot of other people, it's torture. I read a quote from a famous writer once that said, writing is easy. All you need to do is sit at a typewriter and bleed. Right? So obviously he had a very interesting, a dramatic experience in his writing, because he didn't realize that he was actually choosing to do that. So for me, writing is an adventure. So I reckon it's time to have a bit of silly fun. And I've got some autocorrects here that I want to read out to you, because I want to kind of get you into a bit of a silly mood. And in my webinars, I prefer not to swear. because I don't want to be on record as swearing. But I'm reading out these autocorrects and there are some swear words in there. So I'm just going to go through them now, and I think you know, just in case you don't know what an autocorrect is, it's like when you use a smartphone and you go to type something and something completely different comes up, and then you actually send it without having read what you've typed. I mean, I don't have many direct experiences of autocorrect blunders and so on. I know I've got a friend named Gerald, and when I went to send him a message recently, instead of saying hi Gerald, it said hi jerk, because it had autocorrected it, because it doesn't know how to spell Gerald. Okay, so here's the first autocorrect. Chris sends this gets a message from somebody saying, "Thank you for an amazing first date," and he replies and says, "Anytime, when's the second date? I can't wait to see those big beautiful nipples of yours." And he says, "No. Oh no, I'm sorry, I meant to say dimples. My phone changed it. I didn't mean to write nipples." Then we've got an autocorrect from Monica where she says, "I'm fighting with Mike." And her friend says, "Oh, again? Oh my God, I'm sorry." And she says, "Yeah, it's bad. I think it's it this time. He just drove off with his mum's corpse." And her friend says, "With her corpse?" She goes, holy shit, no, her Camaro." The next autocorrect. Bakagami is saying, "Don't invite too many people to my party on Saturday night. I know you haven't seen it yet, but my dick is tiny." His friend says, "You have a tiny dick? Prepare to never live this down." He says, no, my deck. The next one is somebody sending a friend simply this, "Hey dude, I got a new penis today." He says, penis. He says, "Oh my God, I mean PC." And then we've got somebody else receiving a message saying, "Hey, I just saw CNN, there was an earthquake near you. Are you okay?" And the reply is, "Yes, we're all fine." And the original questioner says, "What did it rate on the titty scale?" And the reply is, "Well, they only jiggled a little bit, so it's probably not that high." The next one is, I heard mum got stung by a few bees this morning. Is she okay?" And sending it to dad. "She is okay. She's okay now. No hospital. She had to take the deep penis." The reply is, "What? Oh, I had to inject her with an epic penis." For Christ's sake, I mean EpiPen. The next one is from a dad. It says, "If you and your girlfriend want to come over for dinner, be here at 6. I'm grilling up some baby black kids. Going to be delicious." And the reply is, "As tempting as that sounds, we both have to work till 11. He says, "Yeah, I meant baby black ribs and more for me." The next one is, "Dad and I are going out. Dinner's in the microwave." The reply is, "Awesome, you're the best. Where are you heading?" "Well, he's going to show me his cock. I'm super excited." WTF, Mum? Why would you say that? "Oh my God, I mean his cock." "Yeah, I got it, thanks. No, I mean Doc, where he keeps his boat." "Yeah, okay." The next one is, "Hey Mum, the crack I bought for Dad's birthday was about 500. Is that okay?" Mum says, "Wow, it was much cheaper than when I was young." The correction is cake. "Sorry, Mum." "Wait, what?" Jake gets a message saying, "Are you done painting Jason's living room yet?" "Yeah, just finished." "What color is it again?" "It's called period red." Dude, you're sick. It says, holy shit, it's called Persian red. I got auto-corrected. The next one is, "I was so bored in class, I decided to measure my penis." Laugh out loud. I used it too much, I guess. It's a centimeter. "No, I meant pencil. I didn't mean to write penis. I'm going to jump off a bridge." The next one is, "Chicken vagina is good for dinner?" "No, not really." And roll on the floor laughing, by the way. "What would you rather have?" "Oh my God, chicken fajitas. Definitely not chicken vaginas." Brian gets a message saying, "So how was the first date last night? Did you score?" "Not quite first date. We went to dinner and then walked her home. Then I killed her in the woods outside of her house." Killing her seems a bit harsh. Did she order the lobster and filet mignon or something? Autocorrect to kissed. Dadster says, "You there, Sean?" "Yeah, what's up, Daddy?" I'm eating out your mother tonight at 7, so you have to find dinner on your own. Not sure how to respond to that, Dad. Have fun. I'm not eating her out. I'm eating her out. That clears it up. I mean taking her out. Well, this has been a fun chat. Dad gets a message. You want us to cook anything special for Easter supper? He says, I'll eat any damn thing. But your mum and I have not stopped talking about your dick since we had it at Christmas. It's so juicy. Reply, juicy Easter dick, got it. I'm afraid to ask what you want for dessert. April sends a message. It's so hot it's supposed to get up to like 85 tomorrow. Replies, I love it. April says, I think you should open your poop hole for me this weekend. Oh my God, no. Pool, I mean pool. Janet gets a message. Hi, Jan, are you coming to the meeting at 4? She says, I'll be there. Reply, great. Please meet me in my office at 3:30 so we can have a brief cunnilingus beforehand. Excuse me? I have no words. I typed conference and my phone changed it. I'm so sorry. Mum says, great news. Grandma is homosexual. Okay. Homo hot lips, hot tulips. I'm getting fisted now. Frustrated. Grandma is home from the hospital. Someone's replying to a message saying, not much, just drinking this pube juice my mum bought for me this morning or today. Not my first choice in juices. Granted, it does taste a little funky, but other than that, I could drink this all day. Oh, dude, I meant prune, I swear. Mum says, are you hungry? Starving. I thought you might be. There's a huge surprise for you waiting in the kitchen. It's your favourite. I guess it's the son or daughter. Says, I hope it's your shaved pussy. Oh my God, please don't read that last text. It was the worst autocorrect of my life. I meant shaved pork. I'm so sorry. And the last one. Did you guys eat dinner yet? Yes, just had pasta. Oh, by the way, I laid the babysitter. Excuse me, you what? Haha, paid. I paid her. Sorry to give you a heart attack, babe. I hate you. Okay. So, there's some silly fun. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed reading it. Some sayings on fun I want to share you. This is from one of my favourite authors, Julian May, who says that humour is a sign of personality integration. So being able to laugh at stuff means you can kind of comprehend two sides of things. The next one is actually from me. I don't like quoting myself, but I like it better than having my stuff used by other people with their name on it. So here's one from me. If you learn to laugh at yourself, you'll always have something to laugh at. And the last one here is from John Lennon, who says that time you enjoyed wasting was not wasted, because enjoyment is incredibly important. And I've got some indicators of fun coming up next. And you'll notice, if you've been on other webinars with me, you'll notice something very, very common about these, or that you've seen before. If you're having fun, your mind is focused and your heart's open, and you might even feel a little bit scared. That's not necessarily a prerequisite or a component of fun all the time, but you generally feel some form of excitement. And that could just be, like an appreciation. It could be the passive thing. Part of excitement is appreciation. Okay, so further indicators of fun are time distortion. When you're having fun, time tends to move more quickly. I mean, there's a famous saying on that, right? Don't have to repeat that, I'm sure. You tend to have more energy for what you're doing, or you're more relaxed, and you're usually actively engaged in what you're actually doing, and your thoughts are quite focused. And you tend to be very present and tolerant of events. So if you're enjoying stuff, then things might go wrong, and there might be certain mishaps and so on, but you tend to be able to take care of it, especially like if you're playing a game of some sort. The whole point of games is that they don't always go how you plan, and that could be like a board game or a sports game or something like that. Being present is both a prerequisite and a result of having fun. So if you decide that you want to have fun, then you'll tend to start getting into a more present mood, a more present mode. But if you're present, then you're more likely to be able to have fun. So it's a nice beneficial circle that I was talking about before. So I'll talk about the different levels of fun. I tried doing up a nice diagram with a whole lot of concentric circles and so on. However, the technology was a bit beyond me, so I haven't been able to do that. So level 1 is the type of fun, or level 1 and 2 are the type of fun that we tend to think about most of the time. That's diversions. And diversions can be relaxation and also can be silliness. So, it could be something where you just chill out by the pool or something like that, or you just do something silly. Maybe you talk in a silly voice to your friends or whatever, or you have like a silly email exchange, or or post something funny on your friend's Facebook wall or something like that. I remember years ago I had a friend of mine who stayed at my house, and I was living in a place where I had the bedroom wall was one of those Japanese paper walls, and my friend was a terrible snorer. I didn't know this, but he was a terrible snorer, and apparently, I don't know, but I don't remember this, but at about 4:30 he woke up with me standing over him, and I was holding a pillow in my hand, and I swore at him to be quiet. And anyway, getting to the fun bit, years later he's engaged, and I went to his fiance's Facebook wall and posted a YouTube video on there, which is how to suffocate somebody in their sleep because they're snoring. So that's what I mean by silliness, it's like a nice diversion. And generally, if you go back to the webinar that I ran last week on being yourself, there's an exercise in there which is the illogical meditation, which is very useful to help you start to connect with the broad ways that you can have more fun. So I recommend you go back and listen to that. It'll be available to you. You'll get emails and so on telling you where these things are. And having diversions, you'll find that certain things are more valuable to you as diversions than others. And knowing what helps you in your diversions is a very good clue to what your values actually are. The next level of fun is just simply enjoyment. So you've got diversions, and then this one's a little bit more engaged because you're spectating and supporting things. So there's a certain enjoyment. It can be where you're not actually really a part of it, but you are engaged in a way, at least mentally, in a way of appreciating something. And we've got a picture there of some, football fans and so on, who are part of the game because they're actively watching it and they've painted themselves up and all of that. The next level of fun is where you start to get active, and it could be through exercising, it could be through competing or doing something. We've got a photo of a guy who's surfing there, because exercise doesn't have to be something that punishes you. I think the best exercise is the type of exercise that you enjoy, that is actually fun for you. So it's important that you actually that you find something that's right for you. And also, if you're competing, if you love being competitive and it's not, you're not addicted to winning, but you like the whole competition aspect of things, then being competitive is a really brilliant, active way of having fun. The fourth level is when you actually start to get engagement, and that's when you are communicating with other people or you're being entertained quite actively. And this is where you start to connect with things and connect with your emotions and so on. Level 5 is when you engage in exchange. And I've got a photo there with a caption on it that says, "It is in giving you receive and receiving you give." And so there's a nice exchange there. And it can be a whole lot of fun to connect with people through giving and receiving. And this is, I guess, where most people's limit of what is fun, their definition is limited there, because they don't necessarily think that the next levels that I'm going to talk about are actually fun. And we have a whole lot of belief systems which stop us enjoying these levels so much. I know that some of you will have quite a good appreciation of the fun of this aspect. So with endeavour, if you get to accomplish something, there's a certain type of I would call it almost earthy fun that you get from accomplishing something, especially if it's important to you. And if you've gone through the previous levels where you've decided, these diversions, this silliness type thing, I'm being a fool here, and you're actually able to do those sort of things, you're more likely to be able to connect with what is important to you as in the giving and receiving stage, in how you would like to communicate with other people, how you would like to energize yourself and actually use your energy in the active stage. And also, just what is actually enjoyable to you, because if you engage in silliness, there'll be certain things which don't really grab you that much, and then there'll be other things which do, and then you can build upon those and go through the levels of fun until you get to this stage, which is endeavor. And you're actually able to accomplish something, and you're able to have good command of the resources that you need. Because, it's a bit like, if you're running a business or a charity or raising a family or trying to help somebody achieve a certain result or trying to achieve a certain result yourself. I'd like to reclassify accomplishment as a fun activity, because it is incredibly enjoyable. You have to be a bit of a fool in order to accomplish something, because basically you're setting out to do something which either hasn't been done before or you haven't necessarily done before. And there's a bit of a foolish dimension to that, because in some ways you're doing something which there are a lot of reasons why it probably can't be done. And the endeavor is like you get that challenge, that enjoyable challenge of overcoming something and doing something really deeply meaningful to you. Okay, so the next stage after that is adventure. When you go in for adventure, it's a little bit like endeavor, except you put it all on the line and you actually really proactively choose to expand yourself and realize certain things about yourself. I had somebody come to me years and years ago and said, what's the best personal development program that I can do? And I suggested starting a business. Because if you start a business, you learn enormous things about yourself. You will come up against all sorts of hesitations and belief systems and so on, which try to limit you. And by actually going ahead and doing it and making a go of it and making it successful and tackling the limitations that you've got about maybe dealing with money or approaching people about your business or so on, you learn enormous amounts about yourself, and you expand and you have realizations about what is actually possible for you. And that's adventure. It could also be like raising money for a charity or something. It could be, raising a family is an adventure. If you want to get a reflection back about who you actually are and what your limitations are, you just have kids. Because they're a brilliant reflection of what you deny within yourself, whether you know it or not. And one of my mentors, John DeMartini, says that your children are genetically programmed to express what you suppress. So, there's a massive adventure in that. The last level of fun that I've labelled here is the purpose level. And from previous webinars, you may well know that I'm very much about purpose. But one of the primary keys to discovering what your purpose is to discover what is fun for you. Because one thing about purpose is that while it takes in all the previous levels, it is very much an adventure. It's an endeavor. You do a lot of giving and receiving in it. You have to be engaged with people. It's very active, and in some respects, you're going to, be a bit of a spectator and so on, and you kind of be a spectator of other people's purposes and so on, and you end up doing things which seem like diversions, but which are actually like invitations to you to learn something quite magnificent. I know for myself that the best things that I've ever come up with when I was being a bit silly. Like I'd get up on stage or something and talk about a topic and invent something on stage and realize that, hang on, that's actually the answer to that question I've been pondering for the last 10 years. And it's only through actually undertaking it, the adventure side of it, of like putting myself on the spot, that I got the answer to something. When you're on purpose and you're engaging in a fun purpose, you have a deep commitment, because in order to have fun, there has to be a commitment to enjoying what is actually happening. And it's not necessarily a conscious choice of like, oh, I'm really going to enjoy this now, like you're forcing yourself to enjoy something. It is more of a heartfelt knowing that you are committed rather than a decision to be committed. It's more of a realization, and that's from the seventh level. You're realizing something about yourself, and you realize, hang on, this is what I'm committed to. And when you're engaged in purpose, you will transform yourself, and generally you'll transform things around you. And that's why I've got a photo of the world there, because not necessarily meaning that your purpose has to change the world, but your purpose is going to change your world. And I can tell you from people that are on purpose, and the many that I've worked with over the years, they all say that they're having more fun than they could have ever thought possible. And they may be doing things that other people would find incredibly challenging or daunting, but for them it's just an aspect of the adventure that they're on. And so when I say that that fun just may be the single most important factor in the progress of the human race, what I'm getting to here is like the idea that I had years ago that if everybody was doing what they loved, then the world would be a whole lot more productive and a whole lot more miraculous and wonderful. So when I say that about fun being the single most important factor in the progress of the human race, I actually believe that in order for us to get along and to be productive and to make the world what we want it to be and do it in a sustainable way, that we have to do it from our heart. And I mean, we've had a whole lot of intellectual improvement over the last few hundred years in particular, but we're lagging a little bit in our appreciation of things and our ability to connect with others. And I mean, we have more than enough food to feed everybody in the world, yet people are starving. We have, homeless people, and we have more than enough accommodation for them and empty houses sitting all over the place. But because of some rule about how things should be, we don't let them just have them. And I don't want to start getting all preachy here, but effectively what I'm getting at is this: if we come from the heart and we do what we love, we start to experience a sense of generosity, a sense of that giving and receiving. And when we're able to do that, we are being on purpose. When you have the ability to laugh at yourself, be relaxed and be silly, and you're able to enjoy what other people are doing, like as a spectator and so on, and actively do what's right for you, and engage with other people and really communicate, and have that giving and receiving where you're giving of yourself and also receiving back the resources that you need, and yet you still feel you want to strive to accomplish something and garner the resources that you need and have an adventure in doing it, and expand yourself and realize something about yourself, and then commit to something that's far bigger than yourself, then you've got something really magical. And it reminds me of something that I heard about games and game design. They were talking about when the human race started building temples and edifices to gods, which we may not respect these days, or we may. When they started doing those things, there was really no understanding as to why they were doing it. They didn't quite get it. They just knew that this was important and they needed to do this. And they might have said it was because we were worshipping this god or that god. But as a community, they didn't really know why they were doing it. And we find that once those things started to get built, there was a whole lot greater level of cooperation and communication in the human race, especially in those communities that built them. And then they were able to expand beyond that. So we've achieved this. And now, we're attracting interest from other people around us and so on, and our society is expanding, and we're able to connect with each other the world gets smaller. And so there's a theory going around that something similar is happening now with social media and games. People are doing these things because it's engaging for them. It's a little bit of, it's a diversion. They enjoy it. They feel active in it. They start communicating with each other. They start giving and receiving information. And now people are trying to make worthwhile things happen through social media and also through games. And you see people doing incredible things, and social media becomes a bit of a bragging place about that sort of stuff as well. And with games, you actually end up having to communicate a whole lot better and do massive amounts of problem solving in a very short period of time. And there's massive multiplayer online games. I think they're called MMORPG. I've always been really terrible with that particular acronym. Massive multiplayer online role-playing game. Like you may try and dismiss these things as simple diversions and so on, but if you look at the broader definition of fun as something that expands you and connects you, then these people, they've already shown, like with the 3D modeling for AIDS, that they've got these abilities which we wouldn't have otherwise had. And the reason they were able to get that result so quickly was through online engagement and people coming up with ideas and suggestions that those in isolation simply couldn't. And I'm not saying that this means there's going to be some massive genesis of the human race. I'm just putting out there that perhaps these things which you may enjoy actually have a much deeper meaning to them than we may know, and it might take us a little while to know what the real meaning of it actually is. And I'm talking about this because I want you to give yourself permission to engage in things that you enjoy, simply because at the end of the day there is probably going to be a benefit there which you couldn't have anticipated otherwise. Because fun expands you and it connects you. And ultimately, it seems pretty obvious to me that's a recipe for making the world just that bit smaller. And given the technology that we've got to back up stuff, I think it's going to get very small very quickly. And if you're having fun, then you can't be anybody's slave. Because there are organizations out there which do try to control us, and some of them do try to control us for a very good reason. Like the idea that we have to wear seatbelts in the car. Thank you, I appreciate that that habit is inculcated into the community and so on. But then if it gets out of control, then we have issues. So, I just want to go back to the levels of fun for a little bit. It's important to have all levels of fun. So I've kind of scrolled through all of those. If you think that you're on some really major purpose, but you're not able to laugh at yourself and you take yourself incredibly seriously, I can tell you from working with hundreds of people individually and thousands in groups, if you're taking yourself really seriously and your purpose is incredibly serious and you can't enjoy yourself, you're deluded. You are not on purpose. You're in a mental delusion. And that's just how it is. And it probably comes from a thing called infantile megalomania. So the key here is to find your real purpose is actually to enjoy yourself. And it might sound like a silly suggestion, a silly remedy, but it works. And I've done this over and over and over again. I had a woman that I was working with one-on-one who I suggested that she pump up the tires on her push bike, and she thought I was a nut. She's like, oh, okay, fine, great. I'm paying you all this money to work with you, and here's your remedy: pump up tires on a push bike. Fantastic. And she really, was making fun of me, but in a nice way. That's the kind of way that I often relate to people. And then a few weeks later, her social life exploded. And I asked her how that happened, and she said, well, I was out riding my bike and I met this person and that person, and I went, aha, there you go. You wouldn't have done that if you didn't have the tires pumped up on your bike, would you? So have fun on all levels and have fun in the ways that are right for you. Silly fun really isn't so silly because it tells you what's important to you. It opens your mind to new possibilities, and it opens your heart and allows you to be you. Silly fun is the beginning of the most important realization, and that is the realization about what is important to you. And it's the key to becoming present with yourself. And if you become present with yourself, then you'll be able to get on purpose. You'll be able to contribute enormous amounts of value to the world because you're coming from who you are, because you know how to enjoy the single most important thing that there is to enjoy. Enjoy yourself. I know it's a bit of a play on words. Enjoy yourself. You know, we say to people, enjoy yourself, have fun, or whatever the case may be, enjoy yourself. But I want to be very, very literal when I say this. Enjoy that which you are. And it follows on from that saying that I have. If you learn to laugh at yourself, you'll always have something to laugh at. Because, I mean, wherever you go, you're there. And if you can laugh and enjoy yourself, then the world is your oyster. So I'm confident in saying that fun may be the single most important factor in the progress of the human race. Because by connecting with who we really are, then we can produce incredible value and then connect with others and produce even more value, and the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. This next thing I just put in there because basically I felt like it. There's an experimental project in Stockholm in Sweden where you can sign up to receive a text message. There is a cardiac arrest within 500 meters of you. So you can get there before the ambulance and perform CPR. There's 9,500 people signed up, and on average they reach the location 54% faster. They reach the location in 54% of the cases faster than the ambulance. Now for me, to have a project like that would be loads of fun. I mean, there's a certain imperative and a certain importance. Let's say you're the person trying to get to that person who's having the cardiac arrest. Your mind is engaged, your heart's open, and maybe you're a little bit scared, and there's a bit of excitement. Can I do this thing? Can I add this value to this situation? And for me, I put that in there really, I guess now I'm realizing, I put that in there because I'm hoping that it will broaden your definition of fun to include all sorts of things which you might either classify as just pure seriousness. Because I bet if you were in that situation and you actually saved somebody's life, you'd look back on that as a very fond memory. And it would be deeply touching to you. And I want to classify that sort of thing as genuine, deep-hearted fun. And I want you to have more of it. And to help you have more of it, we have Genuine University. Basically, we're a group of people who would work to get in touch with ourselves, take an action on our truth. We care about other people, and we seek to offer real value to the world, and we courageously rise to worthy challenges and achieve meaningful goals. Now, on this actual date of the 12th of June in 2014, I'm not opening up Genuine University to new people, but it is coming. So I'm saying this in the webinar because I'm getting a lot of contact asking, when do we get involved? How can we get involved? I'm still working out a few things so that we can have it run smooth, or as smoothly as possible. So initially we've got webinars on purpose realization, making money doing what you love, and self-mastery. And I want to be really clear. Having fun is an incredibly important aspect of self-mastery. Self-mastery is not about beating yourself over the head with a big stick so that you'll do the things that you think you should be doing. It's about connecting with yourself. We've got 38 webinars being held between May 2014 and February 2015. They're free. They're recorded and made available to everyone. So for those of you who are asking permission from me to share them with other people, please don't ask permission. Please just share them. Please do that. I think I've said this in every webinar, but it's not getting through. I'm not sure why. Some people have said that they value this work a lot, that they feel like they shouldn't just be giving it away. What I'm giving away is knowledge. And I don't necessarily want to charge for knowledge. What I want to do is create a community, and I'll be looked after with the running of the community, so don't worry about it. Please give this information away if you feel that other people could benefit. The real value is in the network, which is the Real Results Network. And you get connected with a group of people who support you and challenge you to help you follow your truth. And in this respect, following your truth means having a lot of fun and helping you generate prosperity. Real Results program, when it's available, and it will be soon, it'll only be available to members, like paid members, and you're not allowed to pay for it yet, so it's not available yet. We'll also be teaching you how to support others in their journey and how to receive support from them in turn. And help you tune into challenges, because challenges, the ones that really, like the ones that engage your heart, engage your mind and open your heart, that scare you a little and excite you, they're incredible fun, enormous fun. And we'll be teaching you how to undertake those challenges. And basically the Real Results Network is there to give you incredible leverage to bring your dreams into reality, because that's what the adventure part of fun is about, and that's what the purpose part of fun is about. Archimedes said that if you give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, I shall move the world. And basically we want to introduce you to the levers that you've already got inside you and be the fulcrum for you to do that. And in closing, I want to talk to you about some shamanic wisdom. In many shamanic societies, if you came to a medicine person complaining of being disheartened, dispirited, or depressed, they would ask one of 4 questions. When did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? When did you stop finding comfort in the sweet territory of silence? So to me, those questions actually say, when did you stop having fun and connecting with yourself? That's why you're not well. So my name's Peter Haggerty. I'd like to thank you for being a part of this webinar, and I'd like to invite you to next week's webinar, which is a carry-on from last week's webinar, which was being yourself. And combining last week's with this one, have more fun. The next webinar is actually on being more yourself, because fundamentally last week I didn't get across anywhere near what I wanted to. There's a lot more to it, and I'd love to offer that to you next week. Thank you very much.